the conference now. Good morning, everybody. It's so great to see you all. I hope you're excited and looking forward to the day today. My name is Sruti Kaul. I'm IIT Kanpur alum, but today is not about a single campus. As you know, this is the Bay Area Leadership Conference that brings several IITs together. This is about all of us and all of you bringing things to learn from each other, sharing our journeys, talking about our adventures, our successes, and learning from each other. As you can see, we have about 24 IITs already, and we are seeing participants from even the newest ones in our conference today. So make sure you mingle and see all the people from the new IITs. I'll give you a quick glimpse of the agenda for the day before we get started. So as you can see here, we will start with 2 keynotes. The first one, we have our speakers here already, so I'll try to make it short and sweet. You can read most of the information here, but please note that we will continue in this room till we do the lightning talks, and post the 2 keynotes, we will do 3 lightning talks. And lightning talks are more like TED-style talks, if you're familiar with TED and conferences. And we give our speakers like 10 minutes to come and give whatever they want to share, whatever nuggets of wisdom they can share with you. And post that, we will have a little break. In the past conferences, we have received feedback that you all love to get some time to mingle. So we have interspersed our day with several breaks where you can go check out our startup mailer, which I'll talk about in a minute. But after the break, we will go to those 2 conference rooms that you see, A2 and A3. And that's where we have the panel sessions. All 4 panel sessions that will happen this morning are super interesting. So take a look, read up on what they are, and make sure you go attend those. Ask some good questions. We have amazing panelists lined up today. Post that, we will break for lunch. And I would urge all of you to go to our startup mail-up booths during lunch hour and check out these amazing startups that are from our fellow IITians. So a lot of new ideas, a lot of collaboration. One of the things I really admire and appreciate about this conference is the knowledge that we get about all the startups that our fellow IITians are doing. So make sure you take advantage of that. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, without whom we could not make this conference a success. Despite the minimum ticket amount that we get, we need a lot of money to run this scale of a conference. So thanks to our sponsors. And this is the startup mail I was alluding to, where we have almost 40 startups today that are going to be showcasing their products. So make sure you swing by there. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Arjun. And he is going to have a fireside chat with Arun Sarin. So I will introduce Arjun and then I'll let him take over. I think he does not need an introduction. People know Arjun so well, but I will still do the honors. Arjun has a long string of entrepreneurial successes. He co-founded the HCL Group in 1975, taking it from a 6-person garage operation to one of India's largest IT operations. The first leading Indian entrepreneur to relocate to US, Arjun took over HCL's US operation in '89 and grew it to nearly 100 million annual revenue. In 1992, he ran the HCL HP joint venture in India, and in '96, he set up and ran the joint venture with Deluxe Corporation. He consolidated and grew HCL operations in Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand. He holds a bachelor's from IIT Kharagpur and attended the Advanced Management program at Harvard Business School. He has been awarded the Albert Einstein Technology Medal in 2001. The Institution of Engineers has named Mr. Malhotra an eminent engineering personality. He currently serves as a board member for many growing startups, both in India and in the USA. So please give a warm round of applause for him.
I think we have. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Surmi, for that elaborate introduction. It gives me great pleasure to introduce another IIT Kharagpur alum with me on the stage, Sir Arun Sarin. All of you know Arun got knighted some years ago by the Queen in England. In fact, the Kharagpur alums, some of them talking this morning, remember the party we had for that particular honor that was bestowed on them. Now I'll give you a quick background on Arun. I have a detailed background here, but since time is short, I'll keep it brief. Arun, as you know, was the CEO of Vodafone. Like me, he is a BC Roy gold medalist from IIT Kharagpur. He graduated from there in 1975. I graduated in 1970, so we really didn't overlap when we were on campus. Before he came here after Kharagpur and did his graduate studies at Berkeley. And before he took over at Vodafone, he was the CEO of AirTouch, and grew in that company through a number of different acquisitions that they had done before he took over as CEO. Instead of my trying to go through this resume, what I would like is to request Arun to share with you his life story, which will automatically give you how he grew, what he did, and ask him to give us some advice as to how should I put it. He's on the board of a number of large companies, Cisco, Accenture. He's seen IITians in those companies, and he mentioned to me that he felt he could give some words of wisdom as to how they can do better in life in terms of what they're doing. So I will request him to start with that, and then we'll get into questions on other points that come up. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody awake yet? Have you had enough coffee? Chai? Okay, fine. Look, first of all, it's always wonderful to come to an event where you are with fellow IITians. I graduated from IIT in 1975, and when you say the word IIT, even to this day, it gives me little goosebumps, just because of the fabulous time that I had in my 5 years at IIT. And it was absolutely seminal for me to who I am today. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be the person today if I hadn't gone to an IIT or hadn't gone to IIT Kharagpur in particular. And I'm sure you feel that way too. Pretty much because that was a unique experience in our lives. We obviously sort of didn't know what we were getting into when we got into IIT. My own story there is I went to a boarding school in Bangalore, a sort of English military style boarding school called King George's. And I wanted to join the armed forces. My background, my father and my entire family is from the Indian military. And I got into the NDA exam, SSB exam easily, and that's what I wanted to do. But my mother said, no, I have an older brother and he's already gone into the army, so you've got to go do something else. So somebody had an extra IIT form. I took the form, applied, got in, and then went to IIT Kharagpur. And then again, didn't know what I wanted to do. Came to Berkeley on an engineering scholarship. I do have to say that BC White gold medal thing is one of the nice things that has happened to both you and me along the way here. Came to Berkeley and then went to business school after engineering school and management consulting and corporations and AirTouch and Vodafone and blah, 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 blah. So that's sort of a short version of, I think, what you wanted me to say. But look, I was last here about 12 years ago. And I have to say, we talked about a number of things back then, but a lot has changed, and a lot has changed for the better for IITians and Indians in general in the United States. And I have to say I'm very, very proud of that. There are many more Indians in important leadership positions, and every time somebody gets named, it just makes me feel so good. And my own view is, but we have still work to do. I would say we need double, triple, quadruple number of people in important positions, whether it's in companies or academia or whatever walk of life here. I still feel like we can punch a bit better and a bit higher. India as well in the last 12 years has done much better than, say, the previous 12 or 24 or 36 years. And lives of millions of Indians is better today. And I know from knowing some of you and meeting some of you, entrepreneurship is alive and well. The amount of capital that's available today, the ideas, the quality of the ideas, the fact that every institution, every industry is changing rapidly, making some of this innovation possible is also tremendous. This disruption that we're seeing is tremendous. I know later on today you'll hear from the Oyas and the Olas of the world, the new breed of companies that are being created in India, and they've got fascinating stories, and I'm delighted that they'll be here. Just full disclosure, I'm on the board of Ola, and I know Bhavish well, and I'm an investor in his companies as well. So the point is, a lot has changed, a lot has gotten better, but my core thesis here is I think we can do even better. At IIT, it was always sort of being the best and pushing the envelope, one step at a time, one brick at a time, one shove at a time. So I would say we are still on this journey, and we have a little ways to go. Now, one of the things, frankly, that I have learned, and I see this time and time again, whatever field you're interested in, being a leader and being the best in that field is obviously the thing that I would hope and aspire for all of you. But this leadership thing requires three key components. You have to be good at three things simultaneously, no matter if you want to be the president of a university, or you want to be the CEO of a company, or you want to have a great startup. It is the same three principles. And these principles are: one, you have to have very good strategic skills. And what that means is the ability to think about where your industry, where your organization is going to go in the next 3, 5, 7 years, and having a pretty clear view of what is likely to happen so that you can lead the organization in that journey. It requires understanding how customers might change, how technology might change, how competition might change, how regulation might change. It's sort of the core microeconomics of the business. And that requires, and I think IITians in general, because of the cleverness, I think they get this part pretty well. It's a little bit of training that's required, but strategic skills are tremendously important. The second thing that needs to happen simultaneously is operational skills. And operational skills is the ability to deliver your numbers. Whatever your numbers are, you're in ride sharing, how many people took rides, or how many customers are angry at you, or who didn't get properly billed, or whatever it is. Now this is like taking the wash out every day. This is not that intellectual, but it requires you getting your hands dirty in the processes and kind of working hard to making things happen so that you're delivering your numbers. And sometimes these two skills, the strategic skill and the operational skills, are slightly orthogonal, but requires a lot of sort of conscious effort to doing them well and not sort of staying slightly in the clouds. And the final thing is human skills. The ability to recruit people, motivate people, create great teams is a hugely important thing, because you as an individual cannot do it all. You need to be able to collect a team, define the mission, define the vision, define the values, define the goals, and then take that hill, being able to motivate people, sometimes in small groups if you're a startup, sometimes in very large groups if you're a very large organization. So the human skills are tremendously important as well. So I put that before you because I find that leadership, no matter what kind of leadership you're talking about, requires those three skills. And these are learned skills. These are not, I'm sorry I wasn't born with it, so to hell with it, I can't do it. These are learned skills. You've got to practice them. And the earlier you start practicing them, the better you get at them. And it's an and. It's not like, oh, I'm good on strategy and people, but I'm not good at ops, or I'm good at ops and human, but I'm not good at strategy. To finally get to where you probably want to be, you have to have all three of them in large quantities. Sorry, that sounded a little preachy, but I really feel, as you can tell, I feel strongly about it, but equally, I think that's the core of the message that I want to leave with you today. Also, you have encouraged me to kind of wear the IIT hat, and we're all IITians here, or most of us are IITians here, and we all have certain IIT tendencies. 95% of these tendencies are very good. But there are 5% tendencies that we I can't remember having these tendencies before I went to an IIT. After I came out of the IIT, I have these tendencies, so I can only attribute it to the fact that I must have learned it while I was at IIT. It may be slightly assumption-based. You may argue with me, debate with me, ask me questions afterwards as to whether it's right or wrong. But one of the things, so there are 2 or 3 tendencies that I want to talk about. So one tendency I'm going to call IQ plus EQ plus stamina. So what do I mean by that? Nobody's challenging anybody's IQ in this room. But sometimes we tend to over-index on IQ and not enough on EQ and discipline and stamina to do what it is we want to do. Now, every job out there, every leadership position requires different quantities of IQ, EQ, and stamina. So you've got to figure out, are you over-indexing on something or under-indexing on other things? I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but I have to tell you, the tendency is to over-index on IQ and maybe slightly under-index on EQ and all of that, and frankly, that doesn't take you sometimes to the end, to the top, to where you want to be, whatever that might be. I just ask you to think about it. Talk to your spouse, talk to your children. See if they feel there is any IIT tendency here. The second thing I would say is positioning. And positioning is this slight feeling, I'm from IIT. Isn't it obvious that I'm the best? Isn't it obvious that I should have this job? Isn't it obvious that the cream is going to rise to the top? So it's this slightly obvious. It should be obvious to you, but may not be obvious to others around you. So the point here is, if there is something that you want to achieve, you have to go get it. nobody's going to hand it to you. It may be obvious, this is all, as they said, damag mein hai, it's in your head. Fabulous. But you're not the one who's making the decision. So I would just say, look, whatever it is you want to do, just position yourself to make sure that you are genuinely competitive for that position and not sort of rely on, isn't it obvious? I'm sorry I'm being slightly pointed, but there's no point. I've just flown in from New York. I'm flying back to New York. There's no point in my having come all this way just to kind of glad hand all of you and say how wonderful everything is. Fabulous, well done, let's have coffee and see you later. So I'm being purposefully slightly pointed just so that we can either get a discussion going or at least you've got a discussion going in your own mind. The third thing I'd say is effective communications. It is still surprising to me, and I see IITians all the time, either in a startup setting or in large company settings, etc. Communications. If you can't communicate well, you're leaving a lot of ideas on the table. You have to be able to communicate well in small groups, in large groups. And by the way, this is a highly trained thing. It's not like people are born good communicators. Maybe some are. But again, this is a highly trained thing. You've got to train yourself to think about how you're going to say something and what's the most pithy way of saying it. I hope you'll invite me to come back and sit with you after this sort of little rousing thing. Look, my final point while I'm standing here is be a good human being. Do things that your friends and your family will be proud of. Don't do things that are in any way is going to hurt your personal brand or your family's brand or the brand of IITs or brand of Indians in America or Indians anywhere in the world. It's not that hard. Be a good human being. Now the conference highlight this year is technology for doing good, social good, etc. So I just thought I'd highlight a couple things that I'm involved in that I'm very proud of. One is called the Blum Center at UC Berkeley. And if you have a chance, you can go on their website and look at it. Shankar Shastri is the director there. Shankar is an IIT alum. He's the former dean of the engineering school at UC Berkeley. And their mission is to eliminate poverty around the world. And it's got a big focus on India. Using technology, whether it's wireless technology, or it's water purification, taking arsenic out of water, or it's solar to provide power in villages, etc. And it's the largest miner at UC Berkeley. Literally hundreds and hundreds of kids go through the Blum Center to learn about these technologies and then go do field work and come back and have helped people and have helped themselves. I think it's a fabulous thing. If any of you would like to be involved, you can certainly ping me or Shankar or anybody else, but that's a very important thing. And the second thing I'll highlight, and this is a relatively new thing for me, is it's called Malaria No More. It's basically to eradicate malaria. And using genetics, data science, education, all the things put together to make malaria go the way smallpox is gone and polio is gone. And kind of funny story, I was bitten by a mosquito pretty much among the last days when I was leaving in 1975 to come to Berkeley. I landed here 3 days after I got here. I had a splitting headache. I had no idea what it was. I went to the Cowell Hospital and they diagnosed me with malaria. Obviously there was a little gestation period in the middle there. And there were so few malaria cases that they were flying in doctors from all across the country to have them take a look at what a malaria patient looked like. And I was so new here that all I could do was smile. So I smiled the entire time. But sure enough, they got it, they cured it. I've been 100% good since then, but I have a little warm feeling for when you say, you know, eradicate malaria. Even to this day, if I see a mosquito, I go and kill it. Anyway, look, I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Arun. I think a number of people in the audience here, young entrepreneurs who are going out and are going to spend a lot of time trying to get their companies up on work and spend a lot of time at their workplace. You know, it's something I have never been able to master. I just thought I'd check with you. You've done so many things, being CEO of a big company. How do you balance your work life and your home life?
That's easily the hardest thing. I thought you were going to give me a little softball question. You go straight for the jugular here. Listen, I have to tell you that balancing work life and home life is very difficult, but must be done. Otherwise, there are negative consequences to it. If I was to grade myself, I would say it's maybe a little grade inflation, B. If some of my family were here, they might put me more in the C category, or even a C minus. But I was very lucky. I am very lucky. I'm married to Rami, and Rami was both mother, father, everything. So I got away with it. I don't recommend to anybody that you get away with it. I'm looking at the audience here. I can't tell how many of you are still looking for a life partner. But I have to tell you, in my mind, that is easily the most important decision you will ever make in your life. Who you marry ends up deciding who you become. I was very lucky. So marry well.
Do you have a formula for that?
I would certainly IPR protect it before I told you about it.
Okay, I want to check one more thing. You mix around with a lot of people, different countries. You know, I'm sure I'm interested, and I'm sure everyone will be interested in what do you think is the difference between a 60-year-old billionaire and a 30-year-old billionaire?
And you're talking about in the India context?
India context specifically, but
the US context too. So actually, let's start in the Indian context, because I think the contrast there may be slightly greater. So I've had the privilege of working with sort of my age group billionaires in India, because I bought a company in India called Hutch, and we then competed with all the others who had telcos as well. So I know most of them, and now I'm an investor in Ola and Meesho and Daily Hunt and Ola Electric and a bunch of others. So I get to meet the sort of the younger crowd as well. So I feel very privileged and lucky to sort of see that firsthand. So I'd say the 30-year-old billionaire today in India, people who started these great companies, I am super impressed with who they are. And I'll tell you what I'm most most impressed by, and by the way, most of them are all IIT guys, is their maturity at age 26, 28, 30, 32 is fabulous. Their way of approaching things and understanding the world, and these guys have guys like SoftBank and Tiger on the other side of the table, and they're taking them down. To me, that is pretty impressive. Sort of the integration of what it is they're doing and sort of being slightly fearless in going after what they think is right and having maturity beyond their years is what I would say. And by the way, I know he's not in the room yet. You will see Bhavish Agarwal from Ola later on today. And listen to him speak and listen to him express what he's doing. He's one of those guys, essentially. The 60-year-old billionaires are also all good and smart, but they grew up in a different time. You know, they grew up with regulatory, sort of umbrellas. But there are some very impressive people in that list as well.
So just a question, since you know a lot of these 30-year-old kind of billionaires, how many of them are married?
So you're going back to the married well. I'd say half of them are married, half of them are still single. Yeah, the only thing I tell them is, listen, I can't give you any advice outside of marry well.
Well, that is probably the best advice anyone can give. And, yes, I agree completely. It's the biggest decision anyone can take, especially in an arranged marriage, where your decision is based on very little data, and you depend on your team to tell you what's right. But I also wanted to ask you, obviously met a lot of people, and a lot of people have obviously influenced you in a large or small way through your life journey. Who do you think has been the most influential and why?
So, let me go answer that question from a institution point of view. So like I was saying, I went to this boarding school called King George's. You went to Dune. We won't hold that against you. I learned just raw discipline at King George's. Wake up in the morning, run 3 miles every morning, climb the rope, come down, wear your uniform, show up on time, have respect, just basic discipline. And again, coming from a military family, that sort of felt natural. Then you go to IIT, where it's like, what are you talking about? No discipline, yeah. Straight away, hazing, ragging, climbing, go to Missouri, all intellect. That's what it was. It was a drinking from the fire hose intellect. Everybody you met was super smart, and you could learn something from everybody. Then I came here to Berkeley, started in engineering, got my master's, then got my MBA. And Berkeley, in some ways, sort of put me together in some ways. And I have to say, coming to Berkeley, rather than some other place in the United States, also may have been one of the most fortuitous decisions I took, not really knowing that I was taking that decision, because this was such a welcoming and friendly place. And we see today in the Bay Area, and all of you probably experience it, but there are parts of the country we could have gone to where instead of being soul enhancing, it would have been soul extracting for us to be there. For you to be who you are and do great things and encourage you to kind of think out of the box and be who you want to be.
to me, that's what Berkeley did for me. So I'm hugely, hugely thankful to all the institutions I was at, and each one of them, you know, I have a very warm feeling in my heart because the years that I was there were, for that phase of my life, were the most glorious years.
And by the way, I can't let that ding on Doom School pass by. So I'm also from an army family. In fact, everyone's in the army. My 34 first cousins are either married into the defense forces or in the defense forces. So I learned my discipline at home. I went to school to learn character. You know, so basically, my apologies, but I couldn't let that get away then.
Hang on. You don't have the last word on that. My view is when you come from a military family, character is built into you from day one. And what you learned in Dune, I still don't understand, but we'll find out someday.
I think it says 3.5 minutes left. I wanted 5 minutes questions from the audience. So if there are any questions, keep them short so that we can,
Sir Sarin, I have a very specific question. Your talk was good, 3 qualities of leadership. One of them was strategic thinking. We would like to get your views on a very particular topic in an industry where you have worked, the telecom industry, going through a big change. Google's and Facebook's, the OTC players are eroding their margins. If you have to give advice to the CEO of AT&T, Verizon, or Vodafone today, what would you say?
Is there a way for them to get out of the business? Look, I'll tell you something. 10, 15 years ago, the conversation was, how do you take a telco and not have it become a dumb pipe? Whether it was wireline or wireless or whatever it is. My view is, it is the same question today. Unfortunately, a lot of telcos around the world are satisfied being dumb pipes. Now here in the United States, if you're a cell phone provider, you're still getting a $50 ARPU. ARPU is average revenue per unit per month, right? You're getting $50, you're making good margins, you're AT&T and Verizon, your market caps are $250 billion, you have a chance to do something. In Europe, the ARPUs are closer to 20, so you've got less room. And then you go to a country like India where the ARPUs are $3. I would say, look at what Mukesh Ambani is doing. Look at what Jio is doing. Jio came in 3, 4, 5 years ago, he invested $30 billion. And my running joke with Mukesh has always been, you're the only person I know who could invest $30 billion before you earned a single dollar, and you're still in your job. Okay? If you're running a public company, you can't do that. You have to have almost a family-run business that you can take the kinds of risks that he took. And it makes complete sense because he's making $10 billion in free cash flow per year from his oil and gas businesses, right? So, my view is, don't become a dumb pipe. Find ways to monetize the assets that you have. Look at what Jio is doing. And frankly, maybe you have another 5 or 10 years before this pressure intensifies even further.
Thank you.
We've got a minute, so please be brief.
This is Rishikesh. You talked about IQ and EQ plus stamina. Could you please elaborate more on the stamina side? Are you talking about the energy, and where do you get that energy? Any pointers?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So what I mean by stamina there is, you know, in most leadership jobs, it takes an enormous amount of energy to do that job well for a long period of time. So learning to pace yourself, first of all, understanding how much energy is it going to take. Because obviously the way you run a marathon is different from the way you run a 500 meters race, is different from the way you run a 200 meters race and a 100 meters race. So it's that same concept. Understand how much energy you're going to have to put out and learn keep yourself energetic and fresh through whatever way. Whether you do yoga, you walk, or you work out, or do whatever, but you have to have energy, because leadership positions suck an incredible amount of energy, because that's frankly who a leader is. A leader is actually putting out their personal energy to charge up 5 people, 5,000 people, 50,000 people to be able to do a great job. That takes energy. And so monitoring that is an important element.
Thank you, Arun. I got to apologize. We are a minute over, so let's do that once we finish. Still, a minute over, catch him one-on-one.
Let it go.
Okay, come.
So my question to you, Arun, is for all the women leaders in this room who, due to being the person behind a man's success or having taken care of family, have gotten a late start to the leadership journey. What would you say to them in addition to the 3 principles you gave us to succeed in the years coming and not to give up?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, my comments are completely gender neutral, so I would actually go back to this notion of marry well. Marry well doesn't mean T equals 0, it could mean T equals 20, right? So now you're 20th year, you have a life partner, and you're a woman CEO. Your life partner needs to understand what your aspirations are and be able to help you and support you in every way that it would be in the opposite way. So my view is, this is not, when I say marry well, obviously, if you can do the T0 stuff well, then obviously you're getting an early start. But it could happen at any stage. And we all need partners in life to be able to help us go where we want to go. And it actually ends up being about a common aspiration. Both parties sort of seeing that and saying, that's where we want to be as a family.